Order. Would you please rise and join me with Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Public notification has been met for you. All right, let's proceed. Approval of the minutes for April 3rd. Are there any changes, corrections, amendments?
Move to accept the approval of the minutes.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? Okay. And one abstention, one abstention. Okay. Any questions regarding the agenda? No? All right, are there any citizen comments not related to the action item on the agenda tonight? Not related to the action item on the agenda tonight? Hearing none, we'll move forward with the action item. Mr. Merchant?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the
Evening.
Planning Commission. So what we have before you today are amendments to the county's Cultural Protection Overlay District. And what I wanted to do is provide a little background and then kind of go through the changes and then also just quickly go over the status of these amendments as they've gone through council. So the Cultural Protection Overlay District was developed in the late 90s. It came out of an extensive community process, and it was adopted at the time that the county adopted its zoning and development standards ordinance. So that would have been April 1999. And the purpose of that district, which was spelled out, was to, to preserve and protect St. Helena Island from encroaching developments, protect the culture, and those types of things. If you look in a purpose statement, go into great detail, of the purpose of the district. It applies to all of St. Helena Island with the exception of Dataw, Harbor, Fripp, and then the uninhabited barrier islands or barely inhabited barrier islands that we have along the ocean. And so this was addressed in the 2040 Comprehensive Plan. There's a specific recommendation that speaks to the Cultural Protection Overlay District. And at that time, the recommendation was to have the community take a closer look at the district and to create a committee made up of island residents to evaluate the Cultural Protection Overlay District, see if it is achieving its stated purpose and seeing if there are any changes that need to be made to it to strengthen it. And so council back in November appointed a committee called the Cultural Protection Overlay District Committee. So that was something that was a recommendation of the comprehensive plan. So as you remember, back in January 5th Planning Commission meeting, a series of amendments were brought forward to the Planning Commission. Staff initiated, and at that time we had the Planning Commission reviewed those. We had many people speak, and at that time the Planning Commission recommended denial of those amendments. That particular set of amendments then, as you may be aware, went to the January 9th Community Services and Land Use Committee of the County Council. And at that time, they made the following motion. They made the motion to postpone this matter until April 10th and refer the matter to the Cultural Protection Overlay District Committee to study the existing ordinance with the county's legal department and with other outside entities of the committee's choosing to suggest revisions that can be added to reinforce the overlay's purpose and to improve the protection it provides to St. Helena's surrounding islands. So that was kind of the marching orders that were given the CPO committee. So the recommendations that came forward to Planning Commission kind of fell there, and then they charged the CPO committee over the next 3 months to evaluate the language and then, strengthen it, as it says, look at the purpose statement and whether it's protecting what it says it's to be protected in its, in the purpose statement. So the committee, led by Chairman Queen Quet, and we probably have several members here. Do we have any members of the CPO committee here? Jeffrey Gardner. Well, they worked hard. We had 4 meetings in that time. It was staffed by myself and by Tom Kevaney from the county's legal department. And we basically kind of started out with an overview of what residents on the committee valued about the island and the things that they felt were threats to that. And that kind of started some narrative in when we looked at the purpose statement, what it is that we're trying to preserve and protect on the island, those things that people value, and those things that they see as the biggest threat to the future of the island. And so all of that was in the course of 4 meetings. We revamped the purpose statement, and in addition, the committee looked at the definitions, to make sure that they were adequately defining the things that they called out. It is important to mention that, and I probably should have mentioned earlier, the Cultural Protection Overlay District, it is an overlay district. So in zoning, you have your base zoning. On St. Helena Island, most of the island is zoned T2 rural. That's a primarily low-density agricultural district. It allows 1 dwelling unit per 3 acres. So that is the zoning that is in most of the island, with the exception of a few places like the Corners community. And so what an overlay district does, and that's something that the state allows, is you have a zoning district. It's almost like putting a transparency over and saying it's either loosening restrictions or adding additional restrictions. In this case, in the Cultural Protection Overlay District, regardless of what the underlying district it is, it prohibits golf courses, resorts, and gated communities. So it does specifically those 3 things. So it's important to understand that. So the committee did its work. They had a meeting in March. At that time, they finalized the work, made recommendations, and so that draft, which is what you're looking at today, went back to the Community Services and Land Use Committee in April 10th. And at that time, they recommended approval. It immediately went that evening to first reading of County Council, and then 2 weeks later, on April 24th, came back to Council for second reading. Of course, it requires 3 readings. So right now, it's a little unusual in that typically Planning Commission is asked to comment and recommend early on in the process, starting with staff and then going to Planning Commission. In this case, because this directive came from Council, it came back to Council, they got first 2 readings, and our ordinance and the state law require the Planning Commission to look at it at least prior to final action by Council. So that's why it's coming before the Planning Commission today.
Okay.
So, I commend the work of the committee, and this is what they brought forward.
Okay. Questions, comments? Okay, hearing no questions,
I have a question.
Yeah.
Rob, and it turns out it's on this handout that we just got, which has no identification, don't know who it's from or who it speaks to. There's no ownership of it. Does this, in every other action item that I've seen in Planning Commission packets, I've seen a recommendation from staff one way or the other. There wasn't one in this case. Could you explain why?
The staff, this is a result of staff's work with the CPO committee. So we endorse
Absolutely.
the work that is coming forward.
I'm sorry, you endorsed the work
Yeah.
that's coming forward. Right, no, I was, as you all know, I'm the liaison from the
Yeah,
planning
yeah.
commission to the CPO. Thank
All
you,
right.
I just wanted to hear those words. You endorse it, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from Mr. Merchant at this time? Okay.
Do you know where this came from?
I've never seen that before.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to open this up to public comments.
Okay.
A few instructions just for the protocol of it. If you wish to speak on this issue, please submit your request to speak to the Community Development Department Secretary over here. You will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. The commissioners will respectfully listen to your comments. At the podium, please clearly state your name, address for the public record, and please, in turn, be respectful to the public, to the public forum that you're in. This public meeting is recorded and therefore becomes a matter of public record, as does all correspondence on this issue directed to county council officials. I would ask that if you hear comments that you intended to make, and somebody's already spoken to that, please try to avoid the repeating of comments already offered. We're taking it all in. We aren't responsive to your individual comments, but we will be talking amongst ourselves in any fashion that we feel appropriate. It's just a reminder that the Planning Commission is an advisory body to County Council, and as such, the recommendations on this issue go forward to County Council for the review and voting determination at the third reading. With that in mind, I've received 7 requests to speak. So with that, first person I've got identified here is Leslie, I apologize if I mispronounce it, Leslie Lendhart.
It's very well pronounced. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the Planning Commission, my name is Leslie Lenhart, and I'm here with the South Carolina Environmental Law Project. And I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition. Queen Quet unfortunately could not make it here tonight, but she asked me to highlight some of the comments that she submitted to the commission in writing by email, I believe over this weekend.
Yes.
First of all, the commission should by now be acutely aware at this point of the purpose of the CPO, which is to, quote, provide for the long-term protection of the culturally significant resources found on St. Helena Island, and the problems of allowing rapid, unfocused, and knee-jerk development poses a threat to the rural lifestyle on St. Helena Island. As the Conservation Comprehensive Plan says, the most important cultural resource is the people themselves. And this is no more evident at the recent Protect St. Helena Island rally. There were over 1,000 attendees at that rally, and there have been over 11,000 people who have signed a petition in support of the CPO amendments. So the Sea Island Coalition commends members of County Council and the committee that have supported and worked to achieve the amendments to date, including the Beaufort County staff. And those amendments make clear that land development is without question the biggest threat to the island's culture. And it is not being amended to exclude all growth, but to focus on steady, wise, thought-through, incremental growth. So the county is not faced with these knee-jerk planning decisions, but can act deliberately and with a framework. And my organization, SCALP, as we go by, also submitted comments to the CPO committee by email that were submitted to the committee in March. And I just wanted to say very, very briefly that if a court is reviewing a decision by a commission such as your own, that they provide a lot of deference to those decisions. you are the group that knows this community well, and you know the issues at play. And so, on appeal, if that ever came to that, you would be deferred to. So we would ask that you vote to amend the text amendments consistently with how the county's voted and approve the text amendments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Elvio Tropiano?
Good evening, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, excuse me. Elvio Tropiano, I'm the owner of Pine Island. Thank you for having me tonight. The items before you tonight, text amendments to the CDC, specifically strengthening the CPO, the Cultural Protection Overlay, are intended to do that, but in reality, my opinion is they're intended to stop development on my private property. As the Planning Commission, consider this perspective, if you would just roll with me for a second. I'd like to develop on St. Helens Island, if I came at you out of the blue. I'd like to reduce my residential density by over 60%. Can we continue talking? Sure. I'd like to reduce dock entitlements by over 90%. Can we continue the conversation? Love to. I'd like to protect over 250 to 400 acres of my property in perpetuity and over 7.5 miles of shoreline forever. Can we learn some more? Please. I'd like to put a business on top of my property that's intentionally designed to generate a sustainable revenue stream that goes directly back into my host community in St. Helens and my neighbors, supporting local initiatives, education programs, after-school programs, daycare programs, land retention strategies, and education, environmental stewardship programs, etc. Can we learn more? Yes, please. This is where we'd arrive at a debate. That business is a golf course. And I'd ask you guys to, the Planning Commission, to consider, does a sport, badminton, soccer, football, lacrosse, hockey, create a greater demand for urban goods and services, also known as gentrification? Or is it, as Leslie said, a rapid immigration of new residents, traffic, school-age children, stressing the local infrastructure, grocery stores, commercial destinations, etc., new families coming flying in? My desired plans add 0 permanent residents. My current applications with the county add 500 new residents, minimum, 166 lots, 166 septic tanks, 166 wells, 100 docks. And the text amendment before you is designed to stop a golf course, but doesn't actually fulfill its purpose of cultural protection. I fully understand the extreme importance of this, and that's why it deserves the attention that it took to draft in the first place, which was 7 years between 1993 and 1999. Zoning doesn't have to be a shield, it can be a tool. Not a lot of communities get the opportunity to shape that very tool to provide for their families, their loved ones, subsequent generations. Nowhere in this ordinance does it create the possibility for local investment, affordable housing, education, youth retention. It's an opportunity wasted. I encourage everyone to go to pineislandplan.com and just look for yourself at the juxtaposition of what it is that this ordinance is going to force me to do. I asked the Planning Commission, those questions came from me. Sorry, I didn't put my name on it. I was flying through the printer. But I ask you to ask them of the presenter tonight, and I appreciate your time and attention to detail. Thank you for everything you do for the county.
Thank you, Mr. Tropiano.
Announcements with staff, just so you have context. Thank you, Chairman Fox.
Walter Gay?
Good evening. Mr. Chairman, members of council, I stand before you again to protect St. Helens Island. Now, I was here in 1999 when we got the ordinance passed to stop development on St. Helens. The reason? We looked across the river at the Fusky. I and myself, the county treasurer, auditor, and the clerk of court, Henry Chambers, went over there. We did everything we could. In fact, standing up before county council and the treasurer trying to save the property of the people of the Fusky. Now look at it. It's the same thing that's going to happen to our community. Don't trade the heritage and the Gullah people and so forth in for a few little coins of gold or silver. We're not Jesus Christ. We praise him, but I've lived on St. Helena all my life. I was born and raised there. I've had 6 companies and 3 corporations, and I've hired thousands of people. And the heritage over there is just something to be unbelievable. You can't replace it. Don't try to replace it. Now, like I said, I stood here in 1999. I stand here again. Don't let the heritage of Beaufort go. That's what they're trying to save. We don't want to be Bluffton. We don't want to be Hilton Head. I mean, I drive over there every day and tears come out of my eyes because I remember driving all the way to the bridge at Hilton Head and not seeing a business, not one. But there's something wrong. When you look on Jasper side and it's all developed, and you look on Beaufort County side and there's nothing, there's something is in the milk ain't clean. Okay? And all I'm asking is for your attention and support the people on St. Helena Island. I was the first white person over there ever to be initiated into a praise house. First white person that's ever been sanctified in a black Gullah church. And I spoke Gullah until I was 11 years of age. I was born and raised Gullah, and I still cook Gullah. And I practice my religion of Gullah and the culture. And it's something that can't be replaced. And all you're going to do is go out there and dissipate. We can't, and the Gullah people they can't afford the taxes that's going to come that will follow developments. This is just the first one. If you let this one go, you have opened the bag.
Thank you, Mr.
Pandora's box is open. Thank you.
Marie Gibbs.
Good evening.
Evening.
Good evening, Chair. I'm Marie Gibbs. I'm resident of St. Helens Island, South Carolina. I stand before you today, this evening, not alone. I stand with my spirit of ancestors and our community advocate, Ms. Gloria Potts. We're standing on our CPO zoning protection plan. This plan was our blueprint for generational wealth for the Gullah Geechee people living on St. Helens Island. Remember, we were deprived of education, housing, civil rights for many years. Our land sustained life on the island. We did it without golf courses. We did it without gates. We did it without resorts. A land, in a way, is our way, represents Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Michael Bloomberg, and the Rockefellers of millions. They had monetary generation. Our ancestors left us. Our generation wealth is land. During the Civil War in 1862, our ancestors picked 400 pounds of cotton and was paid $1 to buy land, enabling us to live there today. The Gullah people living on St. Helens Island were emancipated, educated, and landowners in 1862, before the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, and others were still enslaved. That alone is a historical evidence of survival of people today standing and why the CPO plan is so important to us. I said that to say that's given us a safety net of all these years in knowing a land and a way of life is safe. A land is a state of being. Changing the land, change the people way of life. It's a domino effect. Our land, our sea, and our seas are our historical and geographical map of our history and culture that the COP stands on. The frightening thing is taxes will rise, and we the people will be disenfranchised because we will not be able to pay expected taxes if the CPO plan was not protected and respected. The secret will cause the Gullah Geechee people to sell out and lose their land. If you were given a glass of water and add a drop of food coloring in it, that water will change. The whole dynamics will change and change our way and the way we live. I currently work at Penn Center at the York W. Bailey Museum as a guide. I'm so ashamed. People come trying, you look at the land, people see what we don't see. They say, please don't change it the way we live today. One guest commented, just smell the air. Don't change that. One of our very own writer, Pat Conroy, loved this island so much. He lies there today. That was his favorite place to stay. All people coming on St. Helens Island, we may not be Binyas, we are Kamyas. We come together. We fight for the right to live. As we sing one song, we are one band. Singing our song, respect our CPO zone. You have completed our assignment to strengthen the plan. Nothing else is on the table. Let's follow the rules and keep focused on the assignment. We've done what you've asked. Vote to accept, amend, protect, and respect our CPO strengthening plan. We the people have spoken. We are a strong, united community and will not stop fighting for the CPO zone plan. To my community, I'm so proud. Continue the courageous fight, endure, persevere, and keep on going. Don't stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Lily Harris.
Good evening to everyone, Planning Commission. I'm also a Binya, born and raised on St. Helena Island. I have lived here all my life. My family and I have lived and owned family property since the 1800s. Therefore, I'm here to support the CPO. The CPO was created by and for the people of the St. Helena community and has protected the Sea Islands way of life and the Gullah Geechee heritage for decades. The original purpose and intent is clear. No golf course, no gates, no resorts. The text amendments simply reinforce and clarify the community's vision in the comprehensive plan. I am, along with many others here, are asking you all, the Planning Commission, to please, we implore you, to please pass the third reading of the CPO. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Natasha D. Is it Robinson?
Good evening.
Good evening.
To ladies
Good
and
evening.
gentlemen of the commission, community. My name is Natasha Robinson. I was born and raised on St. Helena Island. I'm kind of a child of St. Helena Island. There's nowhere on St. Helena Island I don't think I've ever been. I know people from every nook and cranny, juke and jam on St. Helena Island. I've eaten in just about dang near every household in St. Helena Island from the time I was a child to the time I'm now a 48-year-old woman. At the age of 11, I became a representative for St. Helena Island as a Gullah poet and storyteller at Penn Center under the direction of Mr. Emery Campbell. I became a staple for the original Gullah Festival at the age of 13 as the original Gullah speaking tour guide. I grew up St. Helena Island. I am St. Helena Island. I plead and I bleed for St. Helena Island. I just want you to think, when you guys think of St. Helena Island, because I'm pretty sure no tourists, when they come, they're thinking, oh my God, let's go find us the most gracious golf course and resort on St. Helena Island. That's not what they're coming here for. And like Ms. Gibbs said, when they come here, they say, oh my God, the air. Look at these beautiful trees, the lifestyle here. It's so beautiful. Don't change it. And then we have people who come here and they say, oh my God, it's so wonderful, I want to move here and live here. But then you come here and you want to change everything to the place that you just left. When you come here to absorb that beautiful, natural, God-given, gifted view and air and feel that serenity that hugs you and captures you in the lifestyle and love of the people and the culture there, you absorb that. You breathe it in. You don't take it and cut it down and exchange it for golf courses or gated communities or resorts, because that's not what we're about. Sure, it might bring in money for some people, but who's it serving? I mean, what benefit does it actually benefit our culture, the way of life that we have? It does not much for us rather than take away. It takes away from who we really are. It's not who we are or what we represent, and we don't want it there. It's not because we don't want the people to come there, but we don't want that there. There's a lot of Hilton Heads. There's over 15,000 golf courses in the east of the United States. We don't need one, and I don't think the world's gonna hurt for one less golf course. Look at that seal back there. I see St. Helena all over that seal. The dripping moss on the oak trees, the shrimp boats take me back to my Uncle Honey's shrimp boat, the fishing, the country house, the water across the bottom of the seal. It's us. Please, keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Inez Miller. Inez Miller.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Inez Miller. I'm with the Center for Heirs Property. I'm the Woodland Community Advocate on St. Helena Island and for Beaufort County. I ask that you continue to think about the cultural protection overlay and protect it. There are people that say we have a jewel here, and we do. We appreciate that. And if people come from far away to visit and they appreciate it, you know we cherish it. So please help the people that's doing this, council members, your committee, help the people on St. Helena. That's what you're here for. You are the planning commission. So please, we have this saying, living off the land, living off the sea. When the county has an economic crisis or the country, we got our jarred tomatoes and okra and peaches and pears. We got fishermen back here who know how to hunt, give us clam, oysters. We want protection for our island. Please, I implore you. It takes a lot of water to water a golf course, and there are too many. That's not helping the environment. We want trees to remain for shade for us. That's what it was for. We want our trees dripping with the moss. That was a way of lowering blood pressure or helping with asthma. Come on, we got the home remedies. I'm sure some of you been told that stuff. We got it going on. And if the legislature realized that, Senator Capson, Mike Rivers, and has the support, when I met him on March the 7th, he honored people who planted trees. I'm a Dudley, a Miller, a Holmes, double cousin to Queen Quet, and a Latson. So please, I speak for my family, my ancestors that work hard in the fields to make a living and have this sustainable property for us everywhere. Please, please, please. Now I'm willing. I told council, I'll get on my knees. Please, please. Please, please,
No,
please,
please stand.
please, please.
Thank you.
I will, because I care about what happens. We got taxes that need to be paid. We still working on that with people, getting them on easy payment programs and things of that nature that they can afford. We have to think about the people that's older than I am, to be able to pay their taxes and live comfortably on the land that they came up on. Please, I implore you again, do this. Let's enforce the CPO. Miss Gloria Potts, I know she's looking down at us and every other person, Miss Elsie Holmes Mollison, looking down because they help. Some is not living, some is still here, and I'm sure they're watching tonight. They did this CPO because they saw way ahead of time that we had a jewel. Enforce it, please. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jesse White, our final speaker.
Good evening, Commissioners, Chairman Pappas, Jesse White on behalf of the Coastal Conservation League. I just wanted to reiterate a couple things. As you all know, this is about the comprehensive plan and recommendations that have flown from that document. The comprehensive plan is crystal clear about the dangers of incompatible development on St. Helena, stating, quote, implementing land use policies that concentrate growth in urban areas and protect rural land from suburban development are the most important actions the county can take to protect its unique Gullah Geechee heritage. Over 20 years ago, the St. Helena community made an informed choice to prohibit gentrifying resorts, gated communities, and golf course developments in order to protect that Gullah Geechee culture and the land ownership that defines St. Helena. And the people have not changed their minds. The CPO explicitly prohibits these uses because these land uses are directly linked to increasing residential property taxes, which contributes to the loss of Gullah Geechee land ownership and thereby Gullah Geechee culture. So those are the reasons. There's an actual documented link between these prohibited uses. The individual who spoke to you earlier, Mr. Tropiano, bought property on St. Helena subject to these zoning restrictions with full knowledge of their existence. That was also an informed choice, just like the community of St. Helena made over 20 years ago, and now is trying to impose a false choice on this community. Please continue to protect Beaufort County's most notable concentration of living Gullah Geechee culture and land ownership by protecting the spirit and the letter of the CPO through the text amendments that are before you. They are not affecting any substantive changes. They are reinforcing the intent that has been there all along. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to ask the commissioners if you have any comments or questions of each other, if you want, any discussion you'd like to have on the issue. There being no questions, comments amongst ourselves, I'm going to ask for a motion.
Chairman Pappas, I'll make the motion. I'd like to make a motion that we recommend the county council to approve the text amendments as outlined in the Community Development Code, in particular per agenda item 7, which reads, text amendments to the Community Development Code, Article 3, Division 3.1, Section 3.1.70, Land Use Definitions, Division 3.4, Sections 3.4.10, Overlay Zones, Purpose, and 3.4.50, Cultural Protection Overlay CPO Zone, Standards to update land use definitions, recreation facility, golf course, to update definitions, regulations, and standards in the Cultural Protection Overlay Zone. So that is from Commissioners, that is action items on our agenda.
Correct. Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Any opposed? No. It's a unanimous approval of the text amendments to the Community Development Code as proposed in the action. Rob, would you like to make a director's report?
Well, I get to stand up and say that we're hoping in June to be able to present the rest of our comp plan review and update, or I mean, status of our comp plan.
Okay.
So,
I hear you.
yeah. But we are definitely moving through that, and very excited to give you the other half of the report. So, all right.
Okay, that's it?
Okay, that's
all right. The only comments I'd like to make, I want to thank you for your participation and comments, the public. Your passion comes clear. Appreciate your being here and taking part in this. Very important. I'd also like to introduce our newest commissioner, Mr. John Henney, sitting to my left. Welcoming him to the commission. And look forward to working with you as we go forward. With that, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. The meeting's adjourned.